Hello, YouTubers out there. This is Saravia at the movies. So today I am talking about Halloween 2, which is the perfect time of the year to talk about it. And I could discuss the original film, but I've kind of wrote about it in the past, and I've talked about it endlessly, I think, on this channel in the past. So I don't think I really need to discuss it again. But it is one of my favorite horror films of all time. There's no question. Very tight, suspenseful film. One of the best John Carpenter has done. So, but it is Halloween time, and it's also Michael Myers time. And just when you thought Michael Myers had given up his knives, well, turns out that he is back with a bloody steak knife for the new one, Halloween Ends. So it's a perfect time to discuss the 1981 sequel, not Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And this is, of course, the direct sequel. It's one of the few sequels I know of, I think with certain other exceptions that don't come to mind immediately, particularly in the horror film genre, where it picks up exactly where the last film ended. And interestingly enough, Halloween Kills, which came out last year, ignores that movie and all the other sequels after it, and it picks up also exactly where the original Halloween ends, the 1978 film, that is, and has a very different alternate version of events there. Um, Now, I'm one of those people that have watched the Halloween franchise. I've seen all of them, and even Rob Zombie's remake and its sequel. And I got to say that this film is one of the better sequels, but it doesn't even come anywhere near the impact of the original film. And I liked Halloween H20, which is somewhat mediocre, to be fair, but it has a good performance by Jamie Lee Curtis, and there are some things in it that I did like. I didn't care for the mask. I didn't care sometimes for how the music was played, but I do like that final decapitation, which really should have ended that movie. It should have ended Michael Myers for good, but it didn't, of course. And they retconned it in such a way in Halloween Resurrection that just made me, it got me pissed off. Like, you people are so greedy. You just, it's kind of like, it reminded me of the days of Universal monster flicks. All the, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and so on. The continuity is all over the map because they never really matched up with whatever happened in the previous film, or they would think that you would forget what happened. And that obviously was in the days long before we had, VCRs. So nobody could remember really specifically what happened from one film to the next. So Halloween 2, um, it's one of those movies that I've seen it a few times, and I'm sort of caught between the TV version, which hardly has any violence, and the theatrical version. The theatrical version, there are some good things in it, as essentially a rehash, which it is, because Michael Myers is still continuing his pursuit of Laurie Strode, except Laurie Strode this time is his sister, which never really sat well with me. I never thought that made any sense. It's much more frightening when somebody's after you and you don't know why, as opposed to giving him this backstory of how she was kept away from him and that she's his sister. Just, I don't know what John Carpenter and Deborah Hill were thinking when they did that, but I guess this was not a movie they really cared for either, from what I understand. So they wrote it because they could make some money, and that was that. And with Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, they wanted to try to do an anthology, which never went beyond Season of the Witch. And I don't know if we can be grateful or not. I think John Carpenter can come up with good stories. It's just Halloween 3 is not one of them for me. So, but it continues on the same night. He's still in pursuit of her. She's now being taken to a hospital. She's at Haddonfield Hospital, and the whole movie takes place at the hospital. Meanwhile, Dr. Loomis is being driven out of town and told to keep away. And that the nurse that's with him tells him the story about how Laurie Strode is actually, the records were opened the sealed records that revealed Laurie Strode's actual lineage with Michael Myers. So of course they turn back, and he finally confronts him rather at the hospital, tries to shoot him. Of course, nothing works. So it's essentially the same thing. Michael Myers chases Laurie Strode through the hospital corridors. At that point, all the people that work there, the whole staff is gone. But when you look at it from the outside, the hospital doesn't seem that big, and yet it's such a short staff. Gloria Gifford, who I follow on Facebook, plays the head nurse. And I guess one of the things that bothered me about Halloween 2, it always has, were the kills. Now, I'm not a prude when it comes to violence. I like Hellraiser, at least the original one. And I like the gore in that, but I felt it was essential. It was part of the story. It worked in tandem with the story. In this movie, they throw in gory kills that make no sense. For example, early in the picture of Halloween 2, Michael Myers takes a knife from... All these people leave their doors open, which is weird because there are reports of a killer on the loose, but everybody leaves their doors open, or unlocked at the very least. And he walks into an elderly couple who are watching Night of the Living Dead, and she's somewhat horrified, and he takes a knife from the kitchen, and she touches it, and there's blood there, and she screams. The next door neighbor hears the scream, everything okay, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I don't know, he's always, beating her, or something like that, I think she says, about this elderly couple. And it's all seen from the point of view of Michael Myers. And so then finally Michael Myers goes in there and then kills this girl. We don't know what the hell was the point of that. And it's one of those unnecessary kills in the movie. Whereas every kill in Halloween at least felt like it was coming. It was just, there's no justification for it, but it just felt this was a dangerous person on the loose. So then he comes, Michael Myers, goes to the hospital. He knows instinctively that Laurie Strode is there. And he kills the head nurse. He kills two other nurses. One is scalded to death in a scene that really just kind of, it's so off-putting. It felt, actually, it's interesting, there's a similar moment, not scalding to death, but a woman pummeled to death repeatedly in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, I think. And it just goes over and over and over. And I thought, why? What is the point? After a while, it's just too much. One would have been enough. And this is when she's in a jacuzzi with this guy who's the ambulance paramedic. And she says, it's getting hot in here because he's turning up the heat, Michael Myers. He's turning up the temperature. And so he goes to investigate, and then we see in the background, off focus, that he is strangled to death by Michael Myers. And we see a close-up of her. She has no idea what's going on, and then Michael Myers approaches her, and then she thinks it's him, the paramedic, and she even bites his finger. And then finally she looks up, and then she's scalded to death. Again, why kill the whole staff? Just so that Michael Myers can pursue Laurie Strode without benefit or intervention from anybody? I don't know. I suppose so. Now, the finale is quite intense. It's a good finale. And Michael Myers supposedly is burnt to a crisp. And Dr. Loomis is supposedly dead in this explosion that he sets off by turning up the gas, and he just has a lighter, and that's that. Laurie Strode is already far away from this. Of course, that was not to be, because in Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers, Dr. Loomis returns, and he just has a burnt scar. And Michael Myers, just has a different mask that looks like a clown mask, sans eyebrows and all that stuff. So there are things I appreciate about the film. It is a watchable movie, don't get me wrong. It's just that the violence, again, not to be a prude, it took me out of the movie at times. It just felt like it was everything that was not... It worked everything... It went against everything that worked so well in the first Halloween. It just did. Because You didn't have gory deaths like that. Now, of course, when the movie came out, this was around the time where the slasher film boom started with Friday the 13th and then The Burning and, Happy Birthday to Me and all this stuff. Um, Hell Night with Linda Blair, that's a doozy. But, so John Carpenter, I think originally they screened the film and he thought, you need gore, you need something, this is not working. There was barely any gore in the film originally. And so then they, shot some stuff, and I think Rick Rosenthal, who also directed H-20, objected, but what are you going to do? It's John Carpenter. He says we have to have the gore, we have to up the ante. And I understand that, but I think that at the same time, I would have... Michael Myers is going to kill people, of course. There's never a Michael Myers movie where he doesn't kill anyone, and that is expected. But it can be done with some restraint. It can be done with some taste. And this movie signaled really where the genre exactly was going. Not to mention the Friday the 13th innumerable sequels that followed. Certainly took that a lot further too. They upped the ante on gore. So I like the picture enough, but there are times that it's kind of like a mixed review for me, that movie. But I've seen it many times, so I don't know. And it's not like I prefer the TV version, but another scene that felt a little off to me, the one nurse has a hypodermic needle inserted into her eye. And then Gloria Gifford, who plays the head nurse, she's drained of all her blood, and Lance Guest, who's the other paramedic in the film, he was in The Last Starfighter. He finds her and he sees all the blood, and he moves a little too fast. He slips and falls and hits his head and supposedly dies. But if you watch the TV version, he somehow survives, and it's edited in a very different way. They juxtapose scenes in a strange way. That movie, if you watch a TV version, I maybe should do this, but I think somebody else already has on YouTube. The TV version is kind of hilarious because there are things in it that just make no sense at all. But so it's effectively done. I still like Jamie Lee Curtis certainly as Laurie Strode, but the backstory, she's a sister, all that stuff. Too many bloody killings. Overall, not bad, but it signaled where this series was going in the future and other slasher pictures, and they just robbed the audience of imagination, and we started siding with the killers and not the victims. That's kind of what started to happen. So this was an omen to what what would be expected. So anyway, those are my thoughts after all these years. I think I first saw Halloween 2 in 1982 on VHS. I think we had a special night where we watched on Halloween 2 and The Shining. And Shining, certainly resonates much more to me than Halloween 2. But those are my thoughts. Lend me yours. Tell me what you think about Halloween 2 or any of the Halloween pictures. And I doubt there are too many that think Halloween 2 is superior to the original, but if some of you do think that, lend me your thoughts on it nonetheless. And we'll see how Halloween ends. I'll be reviewing that when I get to see it. So, let me your thoughts. Please subscribe to my channel. And this is Jerry Saravia at the Movies, signing off.